Hi, in the last episode, I was telling you about how I managed to get stuck up in the mountains in Monaco and really had trouble getting the truck down all the winding hairpins and everything. But anyway, we made it, and then the next little bit, I was telling you about some of the teams who had to. Usually, what happened in Monaco, the top six teams used to all go and set up by the harbour, which was obviously closer to the pit lane because you didn't have a permanent pit lane in Monaco back in those days. I mean, I know they have now, but everybody used to have to set up round by the harbour, set all the awnings up, and basically work like that. And then everything would get every morning, everything would get transferred up the pit lane, and you'd work like that. So that's how the race weekend would go. But for normally it was the top six teams who would get down by the water. All of the less well-heeled teams, shall we say, or those that were lower in the point standing from the previous season, had to go and set up in the multi-storey car park in Monaco. Now, this was quite a horrendous place, really. I mean, even by Monaco standards, where you would think that everything was all, spick and span and posh and, glamorous. This multi-storey car park certainly wasn't that. And we, a lot of the teams used to have to go up there and set up their truck, their motorhome, their awnings, just as if they would in a normal paddock situation. But what you had was just a concrete multi-storey car park, and there were like slits that you could just about see the ocean out there. It was a terrible sort of thing. But everybody had to set up everything as if they were in a normal garage. It wasn't too bad for the actual race teams because you wouldn't have to put an awning up there, but they would set everything out. All the cars would be worked on there. You'd get the engine trucks up there and everything. But I think probably the most funny was all the motorhomes, because they again set up all their tables and chairs and their hospitality setup, everything like that. They put all the potted plants out and everything for all the guests and all the hangers on to entertain them throughout the weekend. But more often than not, these motorhomes would be deserted because nobody wanted to come and sit in a multi-storey car park. And all the hospitality staff, they did their best, but it just wasn't good. And you would get all the great and the good, and one or two celebrities. They'd poke their head in for 10 minutes, and then they'd think, "Oh, sod this, we'll go back down the harbour, we'll go back where the sunshine is." They just didn't want to be seen in this car park. And it got worse as well, because a lot of the trucks, the race trucks, the motorhomes, they all ran their own power. So they ran generators, they ran sort of compressors to fill up air bottles, everything like this. Well, consequently, the whole car park was just getting full of diesel fumes. And certainly when the cars were fired up as well, we used to had to start running exhaust pipes out of the way of the truck and over in these concrete slits into the outside, so that all the fumes would escape. It was a rotten situation, but it's what it was, and it was part of the aim for you to score more points so that you could move up the grid for the following season, and then hopefully be down by the harbour. It was actually funny, really, when Jackie Stewart set up his team, because obviously Jackie had been triple world champion. He was always around the paddock. He was one of the grandees of the F1 circuit. He was well in with everybody around the world. But when he set up Stewart Grand Prix, which I think 97, 98, something like that, he thought, because of who he was, that he would probably be able to put his truck and put his motorhome and everything down by the harbour, because he would have a lot of guests coming along. But no, he was a new team. He had to go up by the into the multi-storey car park, and I think the story goes was he went to see Bernie about it, and Bernie said, "Look," he says, "you're big friends with Prince Albert, Prince Rainier of Monaco." He said, "The car park is below the palace." He says, "I thought you'd be better off and a little bit closer to your friends." He said, "So you're in the car park." I don't think Jackie was too impressed with that, but that's how it was. Now, with the Leighton House team, the team owner was a Japanese guy called Akira Akagi, and he was head of Leighton House, and he'd bought the team pretty well. I think now lock, stock and barrel. He was a sponsor in 1987, and but he'd come on as team owner. Well, Mr. Akagi had a really nice boat in Monaco harbour to stay on and to entertain his guests, and he was to ingratiate himself to everybody around there. Well, one of the nights, it was after the race. Yeah, I'm just thinking it was after the race. He probably made a silly mistake in inviting all of the race team onto the boat, and it was a lovely gesture. And we finished packing up. We did all the things that we got to do. Loaded the trucks up, went and parked them up, and then all piled up the gangplank onto this boat. Well, it started off as a lovely evening, and there were the usual things, the nice buffet and lovely food, and it was, and we all felt part of the scene. But some of the crew, they were wandering around playing violins and all things like this, and it was a very sort of genteel situation. But some of the crew then brought out water pistols, and they started plastic hats and party things, and they started spraying a little bit of water about. Well, we decided, or one or two of the lads decided, that the water pistols probably weren't carrying enough ammunition. So there was a jacuzzi on the top of this boat, and one or two of the guys, and I know exactly who they were, they went upstairs and they started filling buckets full of water out of this jacuzzi, and they were bringing them down and they started hurling them about. Now, just thinking, this is, I don't know, £5 or £6 million yacht, and it was absolutely getting soaked. Everybody was getting soaked. It didn't matter. The water was just going everywhere, and in the end, we actually emptied this jacuzzi, and the whole decks were swimming with water. And I remember I was on one of the top, like a ladder thing, bunch of steps, and I'd got a bottle of champagne in one hand and a glass in another hand, and I slipped on these steps, and I banged down all the way on these steps and landed on my arse on the bottom, still holding the glass and the bottle. And Adrian Newey was stood at the bottom, and he said, "I'm so impressed with that." He says, "You didn't miss a drop. You didn't spill a drop." But yeah, we, I can't remember too much about what happened after that. But suffice to say, there was a boat in the harbour for Mr. Akagi the following year, and it was a bit of a different situation then, and I'll tell you about that later.